Okay. Now we are on second part of the. Let's know how it is handling all the forms. So question: find the type of the ID. Okay. First of all, let me decode the input type. The first statement it is finding what type of input field we are having. Input field can be a text, email, number, password, or can be a paragraph also. Big text type of input type. No, no, no. First of field is by tagging. It is differentiating by the tagging. Okay. Then text to input field dot send ID else file. Okay. Other option which can be radio or checkboxes. Okay. So not successful. That's the error. Okay. I think let me open my PS4 from where I will be taking up the text. Let me create a new project. Open folder. Hmm, I want to create in, I guess, these are some of my old projects. So I was thinking to create on blue will be fine. Okay. No, no, no. We have to create it here and we have to tag them by them. Okay. Commits mode. Most of the on the document. Let me create you can say Chrome and on. Okay. So we are on Chrome and on. First of all, we have to learn what is a virtual environment. So a virtual environment is a environment that doesn't hamper or doesn't affect our personal, you can say, environment. Or for example, if you want something for a specific, if you want a software for a specific, um, you can say, if you want a software version, if you want some specific version for a software, you don't have to install it for the other you can say softwares. Basically it creates command for virtual env. And no, that will also work, but virtual env. This VNV, it's a virtual environment name. Okay, if you want a virtual environment to also accessible, no, we don't want source pair. Okay, now it's activated. Okay, now I want GPT. Give me full go start go and with the project structure. Let me first create a folder name. Then we are going in the folder. Okay. Now first we have to create a requirement.txt file. We have to copy, create a file, requirement.txt. In the requirement.txt, we have to install the Selenium. Okay, we have installed the Selenium. Now we have to install the requirement.txt. It is installing the requirement.txt. Now you have to download, you have to create a folder named data. Okay, we are creating a folder named data. Then we have to create a form data.json, form data.json, and in the form data.json, the file I will data. This file will hold all the data to be to be filled into the form easily update. ठीक है. It has all the data. Okay. Here we have to update the part.resume where we have stored. I will be pasting my resume here only such that it can collect. Now we have to create a form.automation.py file. Okay. From here we have to create a new file. Well, this just paste here. Okay. We have Chrome extension. Okay. We have let me check from one more thing. That for forms. Go to form. Create a plan form and let me know what's the ID. Hmm. One thing that you have to keep in your mind that if the HJ99TB space KROQRC, these two are there. If it is separated, they are but new, you can say, classes. Here we will take an example of inheritance. If you made a parent class, it will inherit, a child will inherit its parent class. So it will help you in many ways. So please keep this point in your mind. So let us check. This is the form link. Copy. Copy, copy, copy. Let's get into the form. Form URL. Form URL. I think form URL. Config is JSON. Okay. Form config, form URL. I think we have to paste. Let me search if there is URL. Okay. Adjust how.
If you want to create your own Chrome extension, what that means, by the way, let's get all the files you need to started. If you want to create your own Chrome extension, what type of Chrome? New iteration of the web. If you want to create your if you want to create your own Chrome extension, you're in the right place. In this course, Raman will teach you how to create a Chrome extension using the new iteration of the web extensions platform, which is called Manifest v3. Raman is a great instructor, and he works for Pieces.app. Pieces.app provided a grant that made this course possible, but you don't have to use their extension to follow along. Share in the comments what type of Chrome extension you want to make. Now, the reason I want to teach about this particular topic is I've created 2 web extensions in my career. The first is for a previous company where my extension generated a significant amount of revenue for the company, and the second for my current company, Pieces, where our web extensions play a critical part of our product stack and help developers across the globe boost their productivity. I'm going to be using the Pieces web extensions and integrations quite a bit in this video, so if you're interested in downloading an AI coding assistant that helps you save and reuse code snippets, convert screenshots to code, and more, go ahead and download Pieces in the description, and you can totally follow along. So during my journey as a Chrome extension developer, I did often notice that tutorials and Stack Overflow answers were using outdated versions of the web extensions platform. My hope for you after you leave this video is that you have a resource to create a modern Chrome extension and you understand the difference between the newer version of the web extensions platform, Manifest v3, and older versions. Now, before we get started, there's going to be 3 prerequisites to this course. The first is required, and it's that you have a basic understanding of JavaScript and DOM manipulation. The second is optional. If you want to follow along with this video and code alongside with me, you can go to the description below. I'm going to have a link to my GitHub repo. Go ahead and git clone that, and you'll be able to follow along. The third is also optional. If you totally want to follow along, you can go ahead to Pieces.app and install a Pieces IDE integration along with the Pieces web extension, and you'll be able to use Pieces exactly the way I do in this video. With that, let's get started. So as I mentioned before, the extension we're going to create is a YouTube bookmarker. Basically, anytime you navigate to a YouTube video page, an icon will show up on your YouTube video player to allow you to bookmark a particular timestamp of any video. So let me show you how that's going to work. If you're on a YouTube video page, you're going to see this item at the bottom right. You can go ahead and click that. And if you navigate to your Chrome extension icon at the top right, I have a pin, so it's showing in the toolbar.
you're going to see a new timestamp. I already had one timestamp for 50 minutes. I added one with an hour 18. I can go ahead and delete this one because I just decided I don't want it, and our extension is going to give us that ability to do that. Now, if I want to go back to my 15-minute timestamp, you can click the play button, and it goes directly back to that particular timestamp. I can also delete this one too, and when there's no bookmarks to show, it's going to say there's no bookmarks to show. Now I'm going to add one, just so we have one on this video, and I can show you how storage works. I'm going to navigate to a new video, and in this video, we have no bookmarks, so it says there's no bookmarks to show. But if we go back to our previous video where we saved a bookmark, it's going to load that previous bookmark. Now, the last thing is, if you navigate to a non-YouTube video page, it's going to say this is not a YouTube video page in the extension UI. And that's basically all the capabilities of this Chrome extension we're going to build out here. There's going to be a lot more you can do on your own afterwards. Now, I also want to mention the reason we're working on creating this extension in particular is because it's going to show you all the major parts of creating a Chrome extension. It's going to show you how to work with a content script to manipulate the DOM. It's going to show you how to create a UI for your extension. It's going to show you how to use service workers as background scripts, which is a major part of the shift from Manifest v2 to Manifest v3. And to start working on the extension, once you get clone my repo, you can go ahead and click on the puzzle piece in your Chrome browser at the top right, click Manage Extensions. I'm going to go ahead and remove my extension so I can show you how it works. And you're going to see this developer mode option at the top right. Go ahead and toggle that so it's on. Click Load Unpacked. Then go to the repo that you get cloned to mine with the boilerplate code. Go ahead and load that. And we're going to see our extension here if we click on this puzzle piece and pin it. What we're going to see is this basic UI. It's just going to say your bookmarks for this video with no bookmarks. And it's just going to show up everywhere. This is the default messaging from the boilerplate code I supplied. And the boilerplate code will also contain all the files you need to follow along. The best place to start with creating our extension is the manifest.json file. This file is a JSON file where we can specify what version of the extensions platform we will use among other information that is going to serve as defaults for loading in our extensions. Also, every extension you would want to create, whether it's Safari, Mozilla, or any Chromium-based extension, will need a manifest.json file. And it's probably the single most important file in your extension because it simply just won't work without it. In our boilerplate code, I already added the manifest.json file, so we don't have to spend too long writing it out. I think it would be especially helpful if I just point out some of the things that you should note in case you're creating your own extension. So let's take a look here. As you would suspect, there's a name, there's a version number, and a description. And basically, the version number is going to populate when you load in the extension. The name you see is also going to be the name of the extension when you load it in. And the description is pretty self-explanatory. It's just a description of what the extension does. Now, things get more interesting with the permissions. The permissions will be different depending on whatever Chrome extension you're building. For this particular extension, we're going to request two permissions, which is going to be the permissions to use the Chrome.storage API and the Chrome.tabs API. The Chrome.storage API is to store things in the user's browser for the extension. And the second permission, which is the Chrome.tabs API, is what helps us access our browser's tab system so we can read the tab for the extension. This is basically going to help us identify what browser tab the user is currently using and grab the URL to see if they are on a YouTube video page for our extension. Now, the host permissions just give you the ability to send CORS requests to certain host names. Our extension only deals with YouTube pages, so I have a match pattern written here just for YouTube. The service worker, as I mentioned before, there's a big change between extensions v2 and v3. And one of the big changes is the use of a service worker, as you can see here. The other is the ability to use promises. But let's just focus on service workers for right now. Service workers are just a JavaScript file that runs separately from the main browser thread. This means that your service worker will not have access to contents of a web page since it is separate from main processes. However, your service worker does have capabilities to speak to your extension using the extension's messaging system, which we will see and use in our bookmarking extension. The next thing I want to point out is the content scripts. The content scripts are just files that run in context of the web pages we're on. We're going to use this to manipulate the DOM of our web page that our extension is looking at. And here we're just specifying that our content script is represented by our content script.js file, as you can see with the JS colon content script.js. The last thing I want to point out is the popup.html file down here under default popup. This just specifies which file will serve as our UI. In our case, we specify the popup.html file, and in that file, we specify that the corresponding file that helps it with its interactivity is the popup.js file. With all that out of the way, let's get to coding the actual extension. We're now finally going to start writing code to make our extension work. For us to even test the extension, we have to add the button of the YouTube player that will allow us to save bookmarks with timestamps. So in order for us to add a button on the YouTube video player, we'll have to manipulate the DOM of the web page we are on. What that means is we'll have to write our logic in our content script file, which operates in the context of the web page, as I mentioned before. So let's go ahead and add some code to our content script file. We're going to go ahead and add the following variables: YouTube left controls and YouTube player. One is going to be for accessing the YouTube player, one is going to be for accessing the controls, and this is going to allow us to manipulate each of these. But before we continue writing the logic to do DOM manipulation in the context script, we also have to think about how our extension is even going to know when we've navigated to a new web page. And we need to know this so the content script knows to execute logic to add plus icon to add bookmarks for our extension. Let's go ahead and go in our background.js file now. And what we want to do here is listen to any updates in our tab system and find the most recent tab, or the tab that we're on currently, and see if it's a YouTube page. So we're going to have a listener that's going to listen to tabs. And if you remember, we got permissions to access the Chrome.tabs API, and we're going to listen for an update to tabs. The parameters we're given is a tab ID and a tab. What we're going to do from here is see if there's a tab URL, and if there's a tab URL, let's see if that URL includes youtube.com/watch. The way I came up with that is if you look at our YouTube video, every individual video has YouTube/watch. And we just want to make sure we're on a page that has that specifically as a URL. Then what we want to do is set our query parameters. And we're going to use query parameters as a unique ID for each video so we can grab it from storage. You'll see what I mean in a second, and I'll show you. So we're going to do that by using the JavaScript split method. What that means is basically after this question mark query parameter, we're going to grab this value. And this is going to be our unique video value, this right here after the equal sign. And every video on YouTube has a different value right here. So it's a pretty unique key that will help us store videos uniquely as well in our storage. And it's consistent. So then we're going to add URL parameters. And this is just an interface to work with URLs, URL search params. And the final thing we want to do is there's a messaging system that happens between the extension. We're going to send a message to our content script that basically says a new video has loaded. And this is the video ID of that video. And the video ID being that unique video value that we saw in the URL on YouTube. And this tab ID send message usage that I'm doing right here is all directly from documentation. The send message takes a tab ID. It takes a unique object. So right now I'm going to type, and this is the type of event, is a new video event, and then a video ID value, which is going to be URL parameters.get b. So if we're doing URL.get b, it's going to grab this right here. And that's basically going to be the code for that. But send message takes a tab ID, it takes an object, and then it can also take a callback function. This object right here doesn't have to be type or video ID. It can also be something random. Like I could literally pass this, and the content script will have access to random, and then the string random. In our case, the only thing that's applicable is the type of the event and then the video ID, which the content script needs. Now, in our content script, we're going to add a listener that is going to listen to any of those incoming messages. We need to be able to listen to that background.js message. So to do that, we're going to end up writing the following code to add that listener. So we're going to say on message, add listener. And this is going to accept 3 parameters, subject, a sender, and a response.